That was something that bothered me about Prometheus, is that it didn't look anything like this movie, and it was supposedly a prequel.
And
Yeah.
how I can kind of reconcile that with myself is that, and this is another thing that is always talked about with this film, is it's like they're truckers in space. Like,
So they get like the crappiest equipment ever.
yeah.
Um,
And their spaceship is not pretty.
they get retrofitted with computers from 200 years ago.
Yeah, they're just that cheap.
I don't know. That might be a better example than anything else I've ever heard of. It's just like the company is just that cheap, and working for a cheap company, I can certainly understand that. I mean, I'm using equipment from the 1990s, and I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to use, and I'm complaining about it. So these guys really have something to complain about. They have to. They're still using DOS in 2037,
And they're in space.
Yeah, that's a good argument. I like that. It's a little like cheap. It's a bit of a jab at the movie, but it's better than anything else I can think of, so I'll take it. I don't know, Steve, you take us somewhere, because I'm about out of things to talk about with the effects and the datedness of them.
Oh, okay, cool. There's a lot to go with on this movie. There's a couple things I want to mention right off the bat. We talked a little bit about this before recording, but I'm always a sucker for horror movie music, and I love the music in this movie, and it's done by the guy who did The Omen, Gary Goldsmith, which is interesting. Because we mentioned last time when we did the Omen video, the other projects he did, and I'm not sure if I mentioned Alien at that point, but rewatching it just earlier today, I had no idea that it was the same guy. You can kind of hear it in some of the beats.
See, I don't know, the score didn't really stick out to me on this one. I thought it was kind of generic horror movie score. It didn't, like, it had its, creeping, and it had some, shock beats and stuff like that, but it didn't stand out to me as much as The Omen did.
Well, it's not as good as the Omen soundtrack-wise, but I still think it is definitely really good, and it's really fitting. It's a lot like the rest of this movie, where some of it's just so understated, and the way it functions in the film is really just to add to that atmosphere.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I could agree with that. I just thought it was passable. It wasn't a problem, and it wasn't bad or anything. I just thought it was, a passable score. It didn't jump out at me.
That's fair. Part of the reason I like it so much is that there's just this consistent surrealist vibe through the whole film. Like, you take any given frame of the film, and you print it out as just a picture, and it's got like this 70s, 80s surrealist art movement kind of framework to it, and the music really helps in that. Particularly when you get to some of the slower scenes, and it's the film acknowledging that you're supposed to sit through some of this, and the kind of antsiness you get, it helps even more when something happens.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to, like, 2001 in that way, where it's like, yeah, you can go back and you can cut out some of those long, just, scenes where maybe necessarily not a lot of plot is happening, but if you take away some of those scenes, you kind of lose the experience of the movie.
Exactly.